Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome all councillors and members to the latest meeting of Northamptonshire's Executive, and I also welcome those who are viewing online via YouTube and our live stream. You are reminded to keep your microphones muted, and if you can put your laptops and phones on silent as well, that will be very much appreciated. Thank you. So we move on to item agenda 1. That's for apologies for absences. Are there any apologies for absences?
Not amongst members, Chair, but from the officers. We've got apologies from Adele Wiley, Janice Scotts, George Candler, Anne-Marie Dodds and David Watts, and they are all deputised today. Thank you very much.
Okie dokie, thank you very much for that. Item 2, minutes of the meeting held on the 16th of March. The minutes are on your agenda packs. They are based in pages 5 to 22. Are there any comments in respect of their accuracy? Okay, can I have a mover and a seconder then, please, that we sign it? Thank you, Councillor Harrison and Councillor Edwards. So they have been moved and seconded. Can I have a show of hands in favour, please? Thank you very much. So we go on to item 3 of the agenda, which is declarations of members' interests. Members, do you have any declarations of interest that you need to declare before this meeting? Councillor Howell.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Item 10, I'm going to leave the room. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Howell. Councillor Pentland.
Thank you, Chair. The usual declaration that I make that in my other place of work, there may be items on this agenda that have been discussed or meetings, but come with an open mind. I'm not predetermined on any.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Councillor Pentland. There's no more. Okay, so we just move on now to item 4, notifications to request the address the meeting. And I know we have Councillor Maxwell here today. Welcome, Councillor Maxwell. And you want to address item 6, the Household Support Fund. Item 10, houses in multiple application, and item 16, the Knights Farm Rushden overage agreements. Okay, so we move on to item 5, which is performance indicator reports. I'd now like to invite Councillor Bunday to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Chair. This report provides an assessment of the Council's performance in respect of the key performance indicators for 22-23 as at period 11. On balance, this period 11 report shows a positive picture of council performance. Of those with a target, 61% are performing on or above target, 13% are within tolerance of target, and 26% are performing below target. There are a further 47 of performance indicators reported in February which do not have a target and are included for tracking purposes only. In terms of the direction of travel, of the 101 performance indicators reported this month, there are 48 that have improved and 18 that have deteriorated. On performance indicators, other performance indicators either stayed the same or only performed slightly worse, which is by less than about 5%, or do not have a direction which indicates better or worse. I'm sure colleagues will want to comment on their own directorates and areas, but within the governance and performance indicators, performance dropped in January for freedom of information requests completed within 20 working days, environment information regulation requests completed in 20 working days, and individual rights requests completed within statutory timescale. We have had a significant increase in the number of requests since the start of the year, and extra resources have been sought. A case management system is being implemented, which will hopefully, we expect, to streamline process and result in efficiencies. Although we have seen a slight improvement in February, complaints responded to within 20 days, it continues to be low. An additional team member is currently being recruited, and hopefully this will improve the more complex cases. Moving on to the workforce data, overall sickness has reduced from the previous month and is remaining under one full-time equivalent of days lost per full-time equivalent employee over the winter months. This month's absence is comparative to February 22. As I've reported before, officers are reviewing vacancy and overall agency spend data to ensure accuracy, and therefore they have been removed from this report. We expect to complete and have these figures ready by period 2 of 23-24, which I believe is going to be the July executive meeting. And with that, Chair, I'm happy to propose the recommendations of paragraph 3.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Bunday. Members, have you got anything to add for your areas of responsibility? Councillor Brackenbury, thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Just again to welcome the report, welcome the very welcome snapshot that is provided with the data which comes out on each period, and also to welcome the modest improvements in returns in the planning service. And obviously, as members are well aware, a lot of work is going on to improve the planning service for North Northamptonshire, and will continue to do so. So I'd just like to thank everybody who's involved in that process. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Councillor Edwards.
Thank you, Chair. Just wanted to point out the increase in percentage of primary schools that are good or outstanding, and the work that has been done by, actually it's good to see Neil here today, so Neil and his team that have gone into these primary schools and helped them set their way. And it is good and fantastic news that it has increased, and long may it continue.
No, absolutely. Thank you, Councillor Edwards, and thank you, Neil, and your team. Councillor Binley.
Thank you, Chair. Just really wanted to note some really positive improvements on the number of private sector disability facilities grants processed. So positive news there, especially given the times that we face with challenges over recruitment, in that they've been able to recruit 2 new members of staff there, train them up, and if you see at STP 13, you will see the positive work that's been taken there to start processing those applications and clear them all down. So I think it does go to show that this council is an employer of choice.
Thank you very much, Councillor Binley. Well, there's no other comments coming forward. Councillor Bunday has moved that report. Can I look, please, for a seconder? Councillor Brackenbury, thank you very much. So the recommendations are set out on page 24 of the agenda pack. They've been moved and seconded. And can I have a show of hands, please, in favour? That's fantastic. Thank you very much. So we now move on to item 6, which is the Household Support Fund, round 4. And I would like to invite Councillor Maxwell to address the meeting. Councillor Maxwell, you know the drill. You have 3 minutes.
Agenda item 6, Household Support Fund. This report shows the extent of the government funding for people on low incomes in employment, unemployed, pensioners, children of all ages, unpaid carers, care leavers, as well as disabled. The government, who has given North Northants Council almost £5 million for 23-24, we have to ensure that these people who need it get this funding. This means that it needs advertising more widely in order that they're aware of it. The cost of living payment means meeting the benefits. One off £300 pension cost of living payment needs to ensure that these people do not go cold. People who may not think they're eligible, as they do not qualify for benefits, can claim for help. There is no requirement for a full undertaken means test. We can fund food either in vouchers or in cash, so they can go to local shops. White goods can be purchased, which are more energy efficient. Clothes, phone bills, transport-related costs, such as repairs to a car, buying a bike, or paying for the fuel, is included. If you have to go to Ketchum General and there is no buses, then help must be given and make this available. On advice service where people who are in debt or benefit advice, then this should be given, but not large portions of the fund should be used for this. Homeless people who need support to keep up with the bills and household costs and discretionary is required for these people. Schools who know which children need help and their families, we should not expect them to go hungry. Staff who are employed on this temporary contract must be experienced. It is because the checks to be made to ensure that this money goes to the right people who really need it. People have serious health problems and cannot work. Their needs should also be included. Lastly, there is a risk to children in well-being or pensioners who do not normally ask for help, and this must be included in this funding. This report clearly demonstrates that help is at hand in this economic time, and no one should be left out, go hungry, or have no heat. I hope that North Northants meets the requirements and does help those who need it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Maxwell. I'd like to invite Councillor Helen Harrison to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Maxwell, for your comments. You very clearly enunciated the fact that this household support fund can be used for a great variety and depth of support across North Northamptonshire. And I can confirm, and I will go over in this report, how successfully we have managed the first 3 rounds of the fund, and all the checks and balances that you will probably have read in the paper that are there to make sure that we distribute the 4th round successfully over the whole period of the year. And in terms of advertising, absolutely we're using all our social media platforms, we're using schools, we're using the food banks, we're using all the organisations that we work with to make sure that the information is out there and people can access it. As you know, we have a web page dedicated to the cost of living and all the support that can be accessed. And like me, I'm sure that you're being invited to the various parish and town council annual meetings at the moment. I've been advertising the household support fund at each of those meetings that I've been attending, and I'm sure other councillors are doing the same. So to the report. In his autumn statement on the September the 17th, 2022, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, Jeremy Hunt, announced a 4th round of the Household Support Fund. Originally launched in October 2021 to help those struggling financially in the wake of the pandemic, the Household Support Fund continues to be aimed at households in need of support to cover essential living costs such as food, clothing, utility bills and household costs. Round 4 will be for a full year to the 31st of March 2024, offering a further £842 million of financial support to vulnerable households. Previous rounds were just for 6 months. The grant allocation for North Northants, as Councillor Maxwell just pointed out, is £4,930,984, almost £5 million. The previous 3 rounds of the Household Support Fund have been successfully distributed to some of our most vulnerable people and to those experiencing severe hardship. 10,500 children are benefited by the Free School Holiday Meal Fund each break. For the working poor, we've supported 1,952 through cash to the bank. And through the food banks and voluntary organisations who support residents through practical means of food packages, heating support, insulation, housing help, homelessness, etc. We don't have the exact figures yet, but from what we've seen, this would amount to over 12,000 households helped. This amounts to nearly 25,000 households, and if you add the repeat benefit of the free school meals, it would be another 50,000 recipients. This paper sets out the recommended approach to distributing round 4 of the fund and the types of support we'd like to provide, built on the success of and learning from previous schemes. The support recommendations range from children school holiday food support, all vulnerable households that can evidence severe hardship, including disabled residents, carers, pensioners, homeless people, etc. Residents using prepayment meters, food banks and voluntary organisations supporting food, fuel and wellbeing services will continue to be supported to enable local households to benefit directly. The scope and diversity of distribution is set out in full in section 4 of the report and in table 1. As the fund is to be managed over a 12-month period, a series of checkpoints and on a 3-monthly basis will be put in place to ensure that the run rate is controlled. So if it looks like the funds are not being spent, we'll work out how to make sure they are. If it's getting too far ahead of itself, we'll keep an eye on that and make sure that we're not going to run out before the end of the year. Management and oversight of the operational delivery will be with the communities and leisure team. So with that, I'm absolutely delighted that the government has extended this vital support for another full year. It's an absolute lifeline for those who have been hardest hit by rising prices. And I'd like to propose that we accept the recommendations at 3.1.
Thank you very much, Councillor Harrison. Members, have we got any comments to make in relation to this report? Councillor Edwards.
Thank you, Chair, and I too very much welcome this report, and I'm pleased to see that the free school meals will continue during the school holidays, and I know what a positive effect that it has had on families that can claim this voucher and work with the schools to get these vouchers to feed the children during the school holidays, and that is so important. I also welcome the prepay fuel meters as well, and I think that's where a lot of families that may have got into a financial situation before and then forced to go onto a prepayment meter really doesn't help them. So I welcome this in the report that this is going to help them as well. And the checkpoints, and I think the checkpoints are vital within this, because I think Councillor Harrison is right that if we're not spending the money, or the money isn't being claimed, then we should look at it and see why isn't it being claimed and what can we do to do that. And so I welcome the 3-month checkpoints within that as well. So absolutely recommend this report.
Thank you very much, Councillor Edwards. Councillor Pentland.
Thank you, Chair. I'll also be happy to support the recommendations set out in this. Like Councillor Harrison, pleased that the government has extended this, and I know that over recent months the council has worked really hard to get this support out to the people who need it most, and that's absolutely right that we're putting lots of effort into that, because as Councillor Harrison says, times have been difficult, so very pleased to support this.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Pentland. Okay, so Councillor Harrison has moved the report. Can I look for someone to second the report? Councillor Edwards, thank you very much. So the recommendations are on page 57 and 58 of your agenda pack. So they've been moved and seconded. Can I have a show of hands in favour, please? Fantastic. Thank you very much. So moving on to item 7, which is the traffic enforcement at George Street, Corby. And I would like to invite Councillor Graham Lorman to introduce this report, please.
Thank you, Chairman. George Street is the main thoroughfare alongside the Willow Place shopping centre in Corby. It also divides the shopping from much of the parking and leisure and civic facilities in the town, and is thus a safety concern for residents wishing to access one or the other. There's been a TRO in place since 2011. However, enforcement has proved impossible, as it covers parts of the road that are the only access points to Everest Lane and Cardigan Place, and are thus legitimately accessed, whilst the intention was to prevent traffic passing the Corporation Street access. This paper proposes to create a new, shorter TRO, such that it permits access to the roads mentioned, but prevents, between certain hours, cars and vans using the pedestrian crossing outside this building. Taxis, buses and cyclists will still be able to use the road. Vehicles will be required to leave George Street from the end from which they entered it during the restricted hours when they access Cardigan Place or Everest Lane. It's proposed that this is enforced with a new ANPR camera. As part of the investigations and consultations for this scheme, it was found that a surprising 23,000 vehicles transgressed over 6 days. This scheme will increase safety for pedestrians and mobility users, as well as improving air quality, encourage active travel and potentially reduce bus journey times, and has the support of the Willow Place management. Recent regulations mean that drivers will receive a warning for their first infraction within the first 6 months, but can be fined thereafter. Funding has come from the Accelerated Fund, part of the Town Fund, that's already been used in Phase 1 to make improvements, including a tiger crossing further down the road just outside Costa Coffee. Enforcement will be undertaken by the new Northamptonshire Parking and Bus Lane Enforcement Team. The report also proposes that a sum of £25,000 is set aside to investigate additional sites within the authority area. In particular, Newland Street in Kettering has been the subject of many inquiries for this. I'd also like to acknowledge the support of Councillor Pengelly in recent past in progressing this scheme, at which point I'd like to commend this report to the Executive.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lorman. Members, is there any comments on this report? Councillor Bunday.
Thank you, Chair. Just to reiterate what I've said for the last couple of years at the February budget setting for Council, and that is that enforcement should never ever be considered to be a source of revenue going forward. It is there, and it is there solely and designed to encourage a change of behaviour from drivers who want to break the rules. So anybody bringing it forward saying that we should use it as a budgeted revenue stream, I think should be severely pushed back.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bunday.
I was tempted to use it.
Councillor Binley.
Thank you, Chair. Just following up from what Councillor Bunday said, really, this is absolutely about changing behaviours. This is a big public safety issue. That pedestrian crossing is hugely utilised by foot traffic, and of course, you know, I've witnessed a number of near misses there. So I think this is a really, really positive step. I know that there have been some comments around the delivery drivers, as of course we've seen a big uplift in the utilisation of the various delivery companies since the pandemic. However, as of course Councillor Lorman has made very, very clear and is in the report, of course those drivers will still be able to make their collections. They've just got to exit the way that they came, rather than going back across the pedestrian crossing during certain hours. So I really, really welcome this from a public safety perspective, and that's what it's all about. It's about changing those behaviours. So I will most definitely be happy to support this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bunday. Councillor Edwards.
Thank you, Chair. And I too support this. I think anything we can do for public safety. I mean, we have a lot of facilities, particularly around this area, and I look out on this road now where we have a lot of children that come out from the swimming pool or from the restaurants and eateries, that anything we can do to help the public safety is a positive step forward. And Councillor Orman, I'm pleased that you mentioned Newland Street in Kettering in your report. This is something that I get a lot of emails about, and I look forward to moving forward with that one. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Edwards. Councillor Lorman, did you just want to sum up? Microphone. Sorry, your microphone wasn't on then.
I said thank you everybody for the support that's been rendered.
Very good. Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Lorman. Stick to the day job. So the recommendations are on page 104 of the agenda pack. They've been seconded. So they haven't. They've been moved. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Bunday, thank you very much. And if you check on your agenda packs, page 104, you will see the recommendations there. And can I have a show of hands in favour, please? Thank you very much. So we now move on to item 8, School Education Capital Programme Business Case, Kingsley Special School Mobile Unit Replacement. And I'd like to invite Councillor Scott Edwards to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Chair. And this is, as you say, Kingsley Special School in Kettering, which is an amazing school in the heart of Kettering and does an absolutely fantastic job. It is an oversubscribed school that currently has a mobile unit within its grounds. This mobile unit has come out of planning consideration and therefore needs to be replaced. And I'm pleased to say that we're going to replace it with a permanent block rather than a temporary block. And you'll know from previous reports, this is a series of schools that have had this done, and this is a positive impact on those schools that are having that rather than having temporary accommodation. It's costing £1,432,147, which is funded by the High Needs Provision Capital Grant funding, which comes directly from the government. It is a good news for that school. Like I say, it is an oversubscribed school, a much needed school, and does an absolutely fantastic job. So I recommend this for approval.
No, thank you very much, Councillor Edwards, and it's good to be investing that type of sum into our education facilities across our region, so well done for that. Members, have we got any comments in relation to the report before you? Yeah, Councillor Howe.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, totally happy to support this paper. As Councillor Edwards has said, we are investing a lot of money in making a lot of temporary accommodation in our schools permanent, which obviously benefits our children. You know, having them in drafty units is not good for anybody, especially young children, and having a safe and secure environment also aids with their ability to learn properly. So I totally welcome this paper, and it's as you said, it's a number of improvements that this council has been making over the last couple of years. So absolutely support it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. So the report has been moved by Councillor Edwards. Would someone like to second that report, please? Councillor Howe, thank you very much. So the recommendations are set out on page 92 of the agenda pack. They've been moved and seconded. Can I have a show of hands in favour, please? Thank you very much. So we now move on to item 9, School Educational Capital Private Business Case for Little Stanion School, roof replacement. Councillor Edwards, back to you.
Thank you, Chair. And this is another capital funding project to replace the roof at Little Stanion School. It is currently leaking and so causing a problem into the classrooms. It is currently out of, well, not currently, but it is out of its warranty. So it has to come through the School Minor Works Fund. It's costing £875,330 and is much needed. So I recommend this for approval.
Thank you very much. Councillor Edwards, any comments from members? No. Okay. So you will note that the report has been moved by Councillor Edwards. Can I look for someone to second that report? Councillor Howes, thank you very much. The recommendations are set out on page 100 of the agenda pack and have been moved and seconded. Can I have a show of hands in favour, please? Thank you very much. So we now move on to item 10, houses in multiple occupation. And I would like to invite Councillor Maxwell to come and speak for a maximum of 3 minutes.
Agenda item 10, houses of multiple occupation. When looking at HMOs, my concerns are that 6% increase in the last 12 months has not taken into account the extent of HMOs in North Northamptonshire, which are illegal and not being monitored by enforcement as they are not all registered. The temporary accommodation, which was a block in a warehouse in Corby, was the right decision. In 7.23, you say that the council monitors and license HMOs, but who does this? Giving landlords accreditation in 7.28 This would not give the tenants the same protection. Why are we going down this route of living in a bedroom, sharing a kitchen, bathroom, toilet? Who wants to live like this? Last week in Earthenborough, we had no choice but to pass a 35 square metre flat, a kitchen, a bathroom, a toilet and bedroom. This is one of 4 in a house, no parking. And we were told they could get a bike. In Thrapston, 18 people live in one house. As one gets up for work, the other jumps into bed. They work at Primark. Neighbours have to put up with this. We should be building more council houses to replace the ones which have been sold. In Earthenborough, we're building 1 and 2 bedroom homes. We need more. The reason why HMOs are popular with private landlords is that they can take advantage of having every room filled. In student accommodation, this is common, but someone comes in and cleans the kitchen and the bathroom. In HMOs, how does the council know these places are habitable? Who makes sure? Last night on BBC One, Channel 4 News, they showed us HMOs where a mother with 3 children in one room. Is this acceptable? No. We have hotels, but now we have refugees in them. The future has to be agreed. This is not the right way. We, as a council, should be building more council houses in order that people live in affordable accommodation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Maxwell. I'm sure it hasn't slipped your mind, but in Earthenborough, we're currently building 80 units called Nen Fields down the far end. So maybe venture down there and have a look at those. They're very nice houses. I'd like to invite Councillor Brackenbury to introduce his report, please.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you very much, Councillor Maxwell, for your comments. I mean, I think we all recognise that affordable housing is an important factor in our housing mix. Moving on to the paper, what we are asking Council to, or Executive to approve today is to authorise the making a consultation for a non-immediate Article 4 direction in the area defined in the evidence paper which came out in March 2023. Now that basically incorporates the Kingswood ward here in Corby. In a wider sense, HMOs, there are concentrations of HMOs in a number of areas in Northamptonshire, and there has to be a proper licensing and regulation of the HMOs as well. So this is one aspect of a larger piece of work. The first thing I'd like to do is commend the evidence and investigation paper, which appears at Appendix A in the papers. It's a careful and very well put together piece of work, which does give a very good picture of houses in multiple occupation right up and down Northamptonshire. It is, of course, also important, I think, to point out that houses in multiple occupation are a valid part of the housing mix. And we don't want to actively forbid houses in multiple occupation because there are people for whom it is a viable and necessary option. It is, however, an option that does require some supervision and proper licensing. What we're doing here today with a non-immediate Article 4 regulation is introducing a removal of permitted development rights for the area delineated. Now, what that basically means is that larger houses in multiple occupation already require planning permission. But here, once this comes active, and it needs a 12-month lead-in period, so it won't come active until April 2024. At that point, there would be a requirement for planning permission for houses of multiple occupation of any size. And that is the item that we're asking you to agree today. Of course, that by itself isn't going to solve some of the difficulties that we have with houses of multiple occupation, which sometimes lead to increased car parking, rubbish, occasionally antisocial behaviour, and other undesirable consequences. And so this is a multi-agency piece of work which goes forward, which needs to investigate and regulate the houses of multiple occupation we have. So I'd like to commend the paper to you. I would also like to thank the officers who've worked so very hard on producing what is an excellent piece of work, and I do recommend that colleagues do have a look at this. It really is a very useful piece of work. I would also like to thank the members of the Executive Advisory Panel for the very rich debate we had when this paper came before the Planning Policy EAP, so that we really fed back into it. This will now go for a 6-week consultation, assuming the Executive agrees it. And I'd finally like to thank Council for the motion which was put forward on their meeting of the 23rd of June 2021, which was slightly amended, but basically it called for proper regulation of HMOs with the potential for Article 4 regulation. And I think we're all singing on the same hymn sheet here. It's an important piece of work. HMOs are a valid part of the housing mix, but we do have to monitor them, we do have to regulate them, and we do have to consider the concentration of them. So with that, Chair, I recommend the recommendations at 3.1. I propose the recommendations at 3.1 and commend it to Executive.
Thank you very much, Councillor Brackenbury. I'm now just going to open up for members to speak. Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Chair. I think this is an absolutely excellent piece of work and really fully supportive of the conclusions that it comes to. And I think there are two particular points I'd like to make. The first is, we're often accused as a council of not being a listening council. I think this is absolutely a really clear example of where we have listened. And in particular, the ward councillors for Kingswood have been raising concerns about the volume of houses of multiple occupation in their ward. And this investigation, this piece of work, has shown that they are right, that there are a large number in their ward. And that this paper proposes to do something about that. So we listened, we've acted, and we now have a way forward. I think the second point is perhaps to push back a little bit on Councillor Maxwell's depiction of houses of multiple occupation. I know that some are not well regulated and some landlords are not responsible, but many, many landlords are responsible. And houses of multiple occupation are sorely needed for a particular group of people who wouldn't be able to support housing in any other form. You mentioned students, and it did amuse me that you think that in student accommodation that the kitchens are kept clean. I don't know which students you've been hanging out with, but that's not my experience. But there are many, many other groups of people who are on low incomes. They need somewhere to live, and they're very happy to live in houses of multiple occupation, and it's exactly the right housing for them at that period in their life. So if we didn't have any houses of multiple occupation, we would risk those people not being able to support their own living And I'm assuming that that would then mean that the housing would fall to us to provide. So I think it's really important that we don't demonise all landlords of houses of multiple occupation. They're a really important part of our housing mix. But this is a great paper, and it has identified where there is a problem and a way forward for us to do something about that. So thank you to all the officers who put that work in, and thank you, Councillor Brackenbury, for leading on this.
Thank you very much. Councillor Bidney.
Thank you, Chair. Just following on from some of Councillor Harrison's comments there. So, of course, this was actually, I think, first I became aware of it when it was flagged up during one of the sessions for the Levelling Up Scrutiny Commission piece of work, where those councillors did flag that up, and there was a whole discussion around HMOs. Of course, at that point, it was not realised because this piece of work hadn't been carried out. And of course, now this piece of work has been carried out, we know that we're not talking about opinions. We've got the cold, hard facts there, and it is an excellent piece of work, and very thorough piece of work that's been carried out. And of course, what can't speak can't lie. So I really do commend this piece of work that's been carried out. And as Councillor Harrison rightly says, we are a listening council. We have listened here, it has been shown that this left behind area, as identified by the all-party parliamentary group, does have a higher concentration of HMOs within North Northamptonshire. On the wider picture, of course, Corby does have the higher concentration of HMOs from the whole of the North Northamptonshire area, but a lot of that is down to the type of work available in the area, and it's almost being used in many respects as temporary accommodation with a lot of the logistics workers that we have within the area, because of course it is a step up from a hotel. As Councillor Maxwell was talking about hotels, it's a step up because you don't get a kitchen or a lounge in a hotel, and that's why these workers choose to use that type of accommodation. So as Councillor Brackenbury states, it is a very, very important type of accommodation that we have available within North Northamptonshire, as long as we continue, as we do, manage it very, very closely. We do have a team within the council who manage that aspect of licensing of HMOs and carry out enforcement. They will engage with landlords. So, for example, again, as Councillor Harrison said, we do not want to demonise the people out there who are managing these HMOs. Yes, of course, there are those who are not conducting themselves in a way that we would deem to be fit, like there is in every walk of life. However, we have a team who engage and will challenge and deal with those issues as and when they become aware of them. You only have to look at our figures when it comes to enforcement of those types of premises, how when our team engage and start going down that route of requiring improvement notices, etc., how very, very few actually go through to the final stages of court action. And the reason being is it goes all the way back to what we were talking about with the TRO earlier in Corby, in the fact that we change behaviours. That's what we do, and we find that in very, very few cases do we actually have to take that individual to court with regards to the HMO. We also get various reports, whether it be from councillors, other organisations, when you're talking about the unlicensed ones. And when we get those reports, we do act upon them. They do come across my desk, I do see them, they come through from various councillors, and we do act upon them. Unfortunately, sometimes, of course, it is just the rumour mill going round, whereby the people are saying, oh, there's lots of people coming and going. But we do investigate, we follow up, we carry out site visits, and we do check into those. Whereby you've got over-occupation, again, we get reports from individuals living in those properties where they are in effect whistleblowers. And again, we will follow up those reports. But at the same time, I don't think that anybody is made to move into a single bedroom property where they have 3 or 4 occupants living in one room. So, you know, if anything like that does happen, they do just have to come to report it to our private sector housing team, and we will follow any of those things up. So we talk about council house building. Well, we have sat around this table, or tables, recently, and we've approved the plans for the Grange in Kettering, Cannock Road in Corby, just to name 2 off the top of my head. So we are building council houses off the back of Right to Buy, and I know that there are some more announcements coming forward with regards to changes about how much money we get to keep from Right to Buy receipts. So again, watch this space, and I'm sure that you'll see that in the media. So, Chair, I'm really happy to support this piece of work, considering my involvement in the levelling up side of things, not only from my portfolio, but also from having that involvement back when I was on the Scrutiny Commission. So, thank you very much to Councillor Brackenbury and all of those involved in this. It's a brilliant piece of work.
Thank you very much, Councillor Binley. Councillor Edwards.
Thank you, Chair. And I too support this report and think it is a great piece of work. I look at Table 2 with the proportion of HMOs in hotspot wards. And there's six different wards there. And I can see absolutely why Kingswood is being the starting for this. But I guess I just want to be reassured that if I have a fear that we're going to concentrate on one ward, that actually these houses may move to other wards, and I just want to be, what's the word? Reassured, thank you, that if it starts happening or increasing a lot more in some of these other wards, that absolutely we'll look at that and do exactly the same in those wards as well.
Thank you very much, Councillor Edwards. Councillor Lawman.
I've joined the chorus of approval for the report, and in other parts of the country this sort of thing's been noticed, and the Secretary of State's been very clear evidence is required in order to enforce. It's been made very clear, and there is plenty of very good evidence here. And also, as the former councillor for the Croyland and Swanspool ward, which is mentioned, it certainly is a potential issue down there, and it's good to see it noted, parking particularly, and conversion of the Victorian terraced houses into HMOs has been a particular issue. So I welcome this report as well.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lawman. Just looking around the table, there's no other comments. Councillor Brackenbury, would you like to just briefly sum up?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chair. I very much welcome the supportive comments from colleagues. In response to Councillor Edwards' point, of course, Article 4 regulation is only one step, only one part of the management of houses of multiple occupation across the board. And it's important to note that we need to make sure that houses of multiple occupation across Northamptonshire are as well licensed, managed and regulated as possible, so that good practice is encouraged. So if there are problems in wards which are not subject to Article 4 regulation, we will make sure that we address them as quickly as possible. Other than that, Chair, no, again, I thank members for their comments. I thank everybody who's fed into all of this, members and officers alike. I think it's an excellent piece of work, and I propose the regulations at 3.1.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Brackenbury. So you've heard that Councillor Brackenbury has moved the report. Can I look for someone to second? Councillor Binley, thank you very much. So the recommendations are set out at 3.1 on the agenda pack there, and 108 on the electronic agenda pack. Can I have a show of hands in favour, please? That's fantastic. Thank you very much. So we're moving on now to item 11, which is the A43 Northampton to... I wouldn't really that bother too much.
Oh, yeah. It's probably he's checking out the pedestrian crossing. Yeah.
Welcome back, Councillor House. We're now moving on to item 11, A43 Northampton to Kettering Improvements, Phase 3. And I'd like to invite Councillor Lorman to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Chairman. After the Isham bypass, and I think I ought to make that clear, the A43 dualling is our top priority within the major road network improvements. This section of the A43 joins the two largest towns in Northamptonshire and is, for the most part, still single carriageway, which is a barrier to productivity, the economy and development alongside it. Daily there is congestion and hold-ups and delays as well as accidents on this road, and this can also cause rat running locally, which we can hope to prevent. Formerly, NCC organised the dualling of the section to the Overston Grange roundabout, and this now needs extending to the Holcott Sywell roundabout to provide additional capacity, particularly with the development at Overston moving apace. After LGR, we now need to plan in conjunction with WNC as the road passes through both authorities. Indeed, it is the boundary in some places. It does not make sense for each to work separately. This report proposes a memorandum of understanding and other arrangements with WNC in order for the outlined business case to proceed. As the majority of this section of road is within WNC, though we are developing jointly, it's proposed that they take the lead. The MAU would ensure that we are properly involved in the governance of the scheme. Costs have been apportioned according to the length of road in each authority. Our predicted share for the OBC is 17% or £89,000 to be taken from our 21-22 integrated transport block allocation. North of the Holcott Sywell roundabout, it will be for NNC to take the lead. I commend this report to the Executive.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Lorman. And you're right, it is a very important route alongside the Isham bypass as well. And also not to forget the A45 dualling from Stanwick to Thrapston, which is another vitally important piece of road that we need sorting. So don't let that one slip down the agenda. Members, do we have any comments from this report? No? Okay. So, sorry, Councillor Brackenbury.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. No, I'm just very much to welcome this. It's vital to get the strategic business case done to even encourage funding for the actual completion of the project. And I welcome the Chair's sponsorship of certain other road networks as well. But no, that's very much to be welcomed.
Thank you. Back to you, Councillor Lorman, if you just want to quickly sum up and propose.
Thank you for that comment. Just to confirm that every meeting with highways, or national highways, the A45 dualling also gets mentioned because it's their road. So
Jolly good,
we're on that
good.
one.
Thank you. So can we have a seconder of the report, please? Councillor Brackenbury, thank you very much. So the recommendations are at 3.1 of the report, and if you look on your electronic agenda packs, they're on 214. They've been moved and seconded. Can I have a show of hands in favour, please? Thank you very much. So we move on to item 12, which is Department for Transport, additional capital funding for highways maintenance. Councillor Lorman, over to you.
Thank you, Chairman. More good news. Last month in the spring budget, the Chancellor of the Exchequer announced £200 million additional funding for highway maintenance for 23-24, of which NNC's allocation is £1.494 million. This is in addition to the £3.735 million potholes fund previously advised by DFT. It's proposed with this report to accept the funding and allocate it to the capital maintenance programme selected as usual in line with our priority matrix, our asset management plan and the network management plan. Discussions have already started with our contractor Kia to assess how we may best utilise this funding for best value for money and long-term improvements to the network. This funding will be added to our already approved in-principle annual plan and will be advised to councillors when allocated. This funding will benefit every resident of NNC as we all use the roads and pathway network in our day-to-day lives. It's not enough to repair every defect on the network, but it will go some way to doing so. So I commend this report to the Executive.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lorman. That seems a very sensible approach to getting the most out of those funds. Members, have we got any comments? Councillor Harrison.
Not surprisingly, I absolutely welcome this additional money. As mentioned earlier, I've been going to various parish and town annual meetings over the last few weeks, and I can assure you that highways and potholes are mentioned every single time with quite a lot of vociferousness. So anything we can do to make some improvements and get our roads into a better state is absolutely to be welcomed. And so I think everybody gave a big cheer when they heard about this additional money.
Fantastic. Thank you, Councillor Harrison. No other comments? Okay. Back to you, Councillor Lorman, to sum up there.
Just to assure Councillor Harrison that the MP for your area is also on the case with me. So yeah.
Wouldn't expect anything less. Okay, so the report has been moved by Councillor Lorman. Would someone like to second that report? Councillor Howes, thank you very much. The recommendations at 3.1 are clear, so you can look at those, and the recommendations are set at page 226 on the agenda pack as well. So they've been moved and seconded. Can I have a show of hands in favour, please? Thank you. So we move on to item 13, capital programme updates. I'd like to invite Councillor Lloyd Bundy to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Chair. There are 6 items in this report. 2 have been mentioned already, which is the Kingsley School replacement of porter cabins, and also the highways addition of the £1.494 million. On top of that, there's Corby Town Investment Plan Project 2 multi-use building, which is going to come from the town's fund grant. 2 library improvements, Rushton Library and Wellingborough, 50,000 and 29.3 thousand respectively. Family hubs, £197,000 in 23-24, which is to be funded from the Family Hub Transformation Grant, which was a grant that we've been successful in receiving. Pothole repair I've just mentioned, and the other point is just for executive to note that the Isham Bypass design funding, the environment of £1.573 million that was approved by full council a few weeks ago. And with that, I'm happy to recommend the proposals at paragraph 3, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'm now opening up to members if they have anything to say. Councillor Howe.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I welcome this report. Obviously, I'd just like to say I went to Thrapston Library last Saturday. It was lovely to see both councillors Brackenbury attend also, as it's in their ward, and they'd received Section 106 money to make improvements, and they had a lovely extension, which meant that, that it was more of a community hub now, the fabulous room that they're able to let out. And I know that the this contribution towards the Rushton and Wellingborough Library will have a fantastic impact as well, and it's good to see that the Section 106 money are actually being used as they should be, which is something that we as councillors are always keen to ensure that that money is spent and not returned to developers. So thank you. I support this paper, Chair.
Thank you very much. So investing in our schools, investing in our roads, and investing in our libraries. I mean, this sounds like a proactive administration which is doing everything we can for the residents of North Northamptonshire, which is reassuring. Okay, so Councillor Brackenbury.
Well, thank you very much, Chair, and of course investing in Corby Town. With the Towns Fund, you will notice at 5.3 the investment for the multi-use building just over the road here, and the funding that's being allocated for that. So again, very much to welcome that, and very much to thank everybody who's working on this exciting project for the people of Corby.
Thank you, Councillor Brackenbury. Councillor Pentland.
Thank you, Chair, and I just wanted to echo my support for the changes here. These are all really important investments for local residents across, as you've said, such a vast range of the services that are available to local people, and really important. So good to see it coming across that range.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councillor Pentland. Councillor Edwards.
Thank you, Chair. And yeah, so we've talked about Kingsley Special School and so Family Hubs. So I'm pleased to see that you are aware that we awarded the Family Hubs Transformation Grant, and a lot of work has been put into this, into getting this off the ground. And I'm pleased to say that there will be a report at the next executive and a launch in May as to where we're going with this. So again, I absolutely welcome this.
Again, investing in our families and children. Brilliant. Okay, Councillor Lorman.
Thank you. Well, on top of welcoming the Potholes Fund we just talked about, I also welcome the money towards Wellingborough Library, which is a thriving and well-used and well-liked facility, offering quite a range of activities for people, so I welcome that. And in fact, to give Executive an update, we are working on getting a changing places toilet in there as well, which is a further enhancement. And I just wanted to mention the Isham bypass, never let a chance go by. Officers assure me that we are on course for getting the business case ready for July, and subject to receiving a couple of statutory consultees' responses, we should be able to get the planning application in just before that as well. But we are continually pushing that, and hopefully we'll be there soon.
Well, I'm sure the MP for Wellingborough and Rushden will be delighted to hear that. Back to you, Councillor Bunday, to sum up.
Not much more to say, really, Chair. We have 7 very, very good news stories there, and I think it's a good representation of what we, as North Northants Council, have done. The fact that every month I'm bringing to Executive lots of capital changes, which means we're investing for the people of North Northamptonshire, I think is a very good news story.
Absolutely. Okay, so the report has been moved. Can I look for a seconder, please? Councillor Howell, thank you very much. The recommendations, as always, are at 3.1 and they are at 232 on the electronic agenda pack. They've been moved and seconded. Can I have a show of hands in favour, please? That's fantastic. Thank you very much. So we now move on to item 14, which is the budget forecast 22-23 as of P11. And I'd like to invite Councillor Bunday to introduce the report.
Thank you, Chair. As members are well aware, and people are accusing me of repeating myself every month, but this is the monitoring report set out for period 11 and shows where the forecast is going for the general fund and the housing revenue account as at period 11, which is February 2023. This is the penultimate monitoring report of the year, and it is envisaged that the final outturn forecast will be presented to Executive in June. Giving time for the accounts to be closed, it will still only be a forecast though, because it will still be subject to a final signing off and audit. The forecast outturn for the general fund is an overspend of £3.862 million against a net budget of just over £300 million. This is an adverse movement of £1.751 million since the report to the Executive last month, where an overspend of £2.11 million was reported. The details of the movements are broken down in the table at paragraph 4.3 of the report. And there are a number of movements within period, between period 10 and period 11. The main pressures relate to the Children's Trust, who reported a forecast overspend of just under £21 million. And this is an increase of £5.9 million from period 10. The cost to North Northants for the year forecast at the moment is £9.268 million, which is an increase of £2.602 million from period 10. There are a number of other movements in period between period 10 and period 11, and these include several things within children's and education, health and care service. It's continuing to rely heavily on interim workers to fulfil statutory obligations, and this is due to an increased level of need being identified as a result of the impact of COVID, a higher number of vacancies and backlog of historic assessments. A further COMF, which is contain Outbreak Management Fund bid of £220,000 was approved by the CLT, and that mitigates some of the COVID-related pressures, and that's resulted in a net pressure of £553,000. Within adult services, there has been a favourable movement of £250,000 in period, and that moves us to a £911,000 underspend, and that mainly relates to staffing costs. Within place and economy, there have been a favourable movement of £290,000 from period 10. The main favourable movements relate to salaries, lower running costs, and these savings are partly offset by reductions in planning income and the increase in professional fees to provide support to major planning applications. Within enabling services, there has been a favourable movement of £227,000 from period 10. The main movements relate to further forecast savings on salaries, lower running costs and additional income from registration services. As ever, it would be remiss of me not to mention our use of contingency and the potential use of reserves, but we will be looking to directorates to mitigate within their departments and within budget. The housing revenue account has a forecast overspend of £140,000 against an approved budget of £36.27 million. The HRA, as I have reported for several months now, the main pressure is the application of the agreed pay awards being higher than budgeted. The details of the movements against budget are set out in the report at section 6. And with that, Chair, I'm happy to propose the recommendations of paragraph 3.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Bunday. Members, have you got any comments in relation to the report? No? Okay. Okay, so the report has been moved. Can I look for a seconder, please? Councillor Harrison, thank you very much. So the recommendations are at 3.1 and 240 of the electronic agenda pack. Can I have a show of hands in favour, please? Thank you very much. I can confirm that I have received no requests to consider any urgent items of business for this meeting. We now go into a closed session which includes exclusion of the press and the public. I confirm that there are 2 exempt items for consideration. Therefore, I propose to exclude the public and press from the meeting during consideration of the following items of business in accordance with Section 100A of the Local Government Act 1972, because exempt information may be disclosed. Item 15, Asset Management Service Contract Review, and Item 16, Knights Farm Rushton Overage Agreement. Please, can I have a mover for that, please? Thank you very much, Councillor Howe. And a seconder, Councillor Howes. Thank you very much.